Welcome to another episode of the Cosmetics Design Clean and Ethical Beauty Series. In this video series, we're taking a look at the growing clean and ethical beauty movement. This episode focuses specifically on formulation strategies, ingredient challenges, and innovations, as well as what it's like to develop clean beauty products in the lab. Clean beauty has been emerging for some time now and really picked up momentum over the past 5 years. Still, consumers, retailers, and brands each have their own unique expectations and requirements for what is, in fact, clean and ethical when it comes to cosmetics, personal care, and fragrance. Today, we're considering how these challenges are being solved by formulators, cosmetic chemists, and indie brand innovators. I'm Deanna Utrusky, editor of CosmeticsDesign.com, and for this episode, I'm joined by Luciana Coutinho, chemical engineer and founder of the brand strategy and product development consultancy, Lulable.
Hello.
And by Allison Cutlin, biologist and co-founder of Biophile Skincare. Thank you both for joining me.
Thank you
for having us.
We'll get started now by hearing from Luciana Coutinho about the careful work she does with clients looking to formulate clean beauty in today's marketplace.
Thank you, Deanna, for inviting me. I am so excited to share some of the challenges that we face in the lab when formulating clean and ethical beauty products. Let's start with this. What makes a clean and ethical formulation different from a standard formulation? We all know that there's no standard definition of clean, ethical, natural, green, etc. Therefore, it's really the brand's vision and mission that will be translated to a toolkit of ingredients that will turn into a clean and ethical formulation based on the product's brief. And it is really the effort of the cosmetic science to research and ask the right questions to the raw ingredient suppliers and to the brand owners and ambassadors to assess and vet ingredients that fit the profile brief. So now let's answer the question. Which formulation above is clean and ethical based on your company's vision and values? Let's take a look at formulation number 1. So formulation number 1 is a basic emulsion, and it is composed of water glycerin, cetyl alcohol, cetyl glucoside, shea butter, beeswax, hydrogenated palm oil, cucumber extract, allantoin, xanthan gum, sodium benzoate, and potassium sorbate as preservatives. So now, let's take a look at formulation number 2. I think now you think that I made a typo, right? Because those two formulations, they look the same. But you see that it's not the case. Let's check the nuances of the two examples. So when we perform a deep dive on formulation number 1, what's going to happen is that the formula brief will really guide the formulation pathway. So in this case, company ABC provide cleans, ethical, cruelty-free cosmetic products with natural and natural-derived, non-GMO, non-synthetics, sustainable sourced, vegan, gluten-free ingredients. Please note that this example is really a stretch. It's just to show the importance of communicating with raw ingredient suppliers and receive the correct information. So let's take a look at this. So that's the formulation number 1. I decided to contact supplier A, and they could not provide me with a statement that the glycerin is made with non-GMO feedstock. I contacted supplier B. They stated that cetyl alcohol is from a petrochemical source. Supplier C provided a statement that citral may be derived from wheat. Supplier D could not provide a sustainability statement from the shea butter farm. Beeswax is not vegan, and the brief states no synthetics. Therefore, we cannot use even synthetic beeswax. We'll need to replace with another natural wax. Supplier E could not provide a statement that hydrogenated palm oil is RSPO. Supplier F disclosed that this extract is preserved with ascorbic acid, which is a nature identical ingredient. In this case, it is synthetic. Supplier G provided a statement that its xanthan gum may be fermented from wheat. Allantoin is considered a nature identical safe synthetic. Sodium benzoate and potassium sorbate are considered nature identical safe synthetic preservatives. So you can see that this formulation number 1 will not fit the brief that was given to me. So now let's do another deep dive on formulation number 2. As I mentioned to you, the brief is the one that really drives the development pathway. And in this case, company XYZ provides clean, ethical, cruelty-free cosmetic products with natural and natural-derived, non-GMO, and now in this case, safe synthetics, sustainable sourced, vegan, gluten-free ingredients. So looking at formulation number 2, I was able to contact supplier H, and they provided me a statement that the glycerin is made with a non-GMO corn feedstock. Supplier I stated that its citral alcohol is Cosmos certified, 100% CPAI, so that means that it's chemically processed and it's a coconut-derived ingredient. Supplier J provided a statement that citral glucoside is non-GMO and gluten-free. Supplier K provided a fair trade statement from the shea butter farm. Beeswax is not vegan, so in this case, Lulabo would have to align with company to make sure that we could use synthetic beeswax. Supplier L provided a statement that the hydrogenated palm oil is RSPO. Supplier F disclosed that it is preserved with sorbic acid. Allantoin is considered a nature identical, safe synthetic. Supplier M provided a statement that xanthan gum is fermented with non-GMO corn. And the last one is potassium sorbate and sodium benzoate. They are considered nature identical, safe synthetic preservatives. So now with formulation number 2, based on the communications that we had with the suppliers, it seems like that we only have to align with the client with regards to the beeswax. And if the client is okay with us using synthetic beeswax, we'll move forward with the project. So some of the takeaways are that you really need to understand your brief. So product developers, really talk to your client. You need to understand the brand essence and any no-no lists that you have to incorporate into the development. Make sure you talk to raw ingredient suppliers. It's so important to understand what type of extraction methods they are using. If you're talking about even a botanical or any other ingredient that will be processed, look at your certifications and see if they have everything that you needed to really fit the brief that you are working on. And the last piece is supply chain. Make sure that the raw ingredient supplier has a supply chain that makes sense, is sustainable, and you and your client is comfortable with that. with the client, make sure you disclose sensory and technical challenges up front, any issues that you may see with formula stability when you're using natural or natural derived ingredients, any type of discoloration that you may oversee that it may happen with the formulations that you're developing. Make sure that the efficacy claims will match, that you're using ingredients that will be able to fit within the efficacy claims that your client is providing you. And if you're working with a formulation, also make sure that you talk to your client and understand what parameters you have to work on, especially cost. And have fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deanna. It's such a pleasure to be here. I am so happy to talk to you today about clean and sustainable beauty powered by biology. So first, anytime I think about a formulation, I really think about where it's going. And I think we need to start with the skin, our living biology. And actually, we are animals living in a microbial world. We are a mixture of human and microbes, and they play a key role in our proper barrier functioning, anti-inflammatory actions, defense, and tissue repair. And disruption in this biodiversity on our skin can lead to allergy and inflammatory diseases that we're seeing much more of these days. And that disruption is caused by environment, and it's also caused by pH, some of the products that we're using, and antibacterials. So from a formulator standpoint, we really have to keep the skin biology in mind. And with the microbiome, we're learning that there needs to be a new paradigm shift in the way that we take care of our skin and also how skincare should be formulated. So that means, of course, we always want to formulate for efficacy. We want it to be clean. It needs to be sustainable. And the fourth part is that it should be microbiome friendly. It should work with all of the skin biology. And the method, really the answer to doing that, is working with biology as a tool. So what does it mean to create with biology? It means that we use living systems to create sustainable materials that are more symbiotic with our bodies and the environment. So while there are certain chemicals like petrochemicals or even natural materials that we synthesize or harvest, instead we're using materials that we grow through microorganisms. So we're all fairly familiar with some of these biological materials right now. We'll see a lot of fermentation and biotech ingredients on the market already. These are sustainable ingredients and skin-loving ingredients. Some common ones are fermented botanicals, which have been bioactivated. A lot of these have biome benefits, bacterial lysates or filtrates that support the barrier in the skin immune response. And we're seeing more biotech replacements, such as hyaluronic acid and collagen and epidermal growth factor, which are from animal sources but can now be produced in yeast. Also biosurfactants. There's new technology for creating palm oil through fermentation now, which is going to be a game changer for sustainability. Also replacements for silicone, new SPF ingredients from cyanobacteria, and also preservatives using ferments lysates and bacteriocins, which are from those. So let's just take a look at a product here of a serum made sort of in the conventional way. These are all common ingredients. You've got your water, which requires preservation right off the bat, your thickener, actives, solubilizer, silicones, and the list goes on. We think about this in a bio aspect. You can think about creating a formula that's more of a system, using a ferment that would contain multi ingredients in it, including a self-preserving system. You could use a glycolipid surfactant, polysaccharides that could thicken and also give an amazing skin feel, along with bioactives. And this is actually what we did with Biofile. This is a little formula anatomy of a Biofile product. The key technology of Biofile is our biotic broth, which is a fermentation broth made by combining probiotic bacteria and plant and superfood extracts. And this broth is really rich in postbiotic nutrients, bacterial cell wall lysates, and also this bioactivated fermented plant foods. So it's just this sort of superfood all in one. And to that, we use that as our base, as our water phase. And to that, we add bioactives. So it's just, the formula is basically broth plus actives. It is a self-preserving system, and the pH is lower, as you can see. So it is cruelty-free, vegan, gluten-free, and biomade. And on all of our products, we have the percent biomade. And they're all over 85% biomade. So just to kind of sum up the biological approach, we've hit all of these 4 pillars by creating something that has synergy through microbes, using multifunctional ingredients, using biomade ingredients that are fully sustainable and are also skin food actives. And because they are bioavailable and biocompatible, the efficacy is increased and it communicates more effectively with the skin for a better result. And last but not least, the microbiome is nourished with fermented and biome-friendly ingredients. Practical strategies for everyone for a biological approach: really put the skin first holistic approach. Keeping your formula, the water activity low, keeping that pH lower is also better for the skin. Using bio-based ingredients for safety, sustainability. Using multifunctional supporting ingredients. Reducing your mixtures to avoid preservative problems. Employ hurdle technology to bind water. And really think about it as a systems view, not just a list. And also consider your packaging. It's very important. We have tamper-proof packaging because these are sensitive systems and you don't want to introduce any bacteria. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Allison. Your approach to skincare formulation at Biofile is so innovative. I really enjoyed hearing more about it. So from here, we're going to move into our little Q&A discussion of clean and ethical beauty in the lab. I do have several questions outlined, but I want to be mindful of the time. So Luciana, I'll start with some questions for you, but maybe not ask you everything I have on my mind. Let me see. One of the questions I do want to talk about with you, Luciana, in particular, is the fact that when you were going through your presentation, it really struck me that it could be very difficult, right, to source these ingredients and meet the expectations of various clean beauty brands. But I know we had some conversations preparing for this episode, and you mentioned then that ingredient makers are in fact helping to make your job, as it is, quite a bit easier. Can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing from suppliers just now?
Yes, Diana. Sourcing ingredients that meet the expectations of clean beauty brands can be sometimes challenging. But the advance that I have seen at Lulubo is tremendous from, I would say, 5 years ago to now. In the past, I would call raw material suppliers and I would ask, can you please share with me how you process this ingredient? And I would hear, no, it's proprietary. We can't share this with you. Nowadays, things have changed a lot. So most of the raw material suppliers, and I would say that all Lulubo's strategic raw material partners have been very transparent with this type of information. They really share with us the type of sustainability roadmap that they created. The launches of raw materials that fit a clean and ethical brief have grown exponentially, and the exchange of technical information to achieve clean and ethical formulations has been very, very open.
Yeah.
These ingredients are new, therefore it's a must. You do need to communicate with the raw ingredient suppliers and share information, just because we don't have historical data on those ingredients. But really, the conversation and the openness had opened a lot.
Excellent, excellent. That's very good to hear. I'd like to ask one more question of you, Luciana, before I jump over to Allison. And that question is about silicone replacements. I think this is a question that comes up for formulators a lot, and particularly brands looking for alternatives to conventional formulations. Can you talk about maybe some of the better silicone replacements available, or maybe what you prefer to work with?
Sure. So there's really no magic ingredients today, okay? Silicones are silicones, and we try our best to use ingredients today that will mimic that specific feel. I have a feel that I like to use. It also depends on the brief that I get, as I mentioned. It's so important to understand what the client is looking for.
Sure.
Today, I have to say that I do work with a blend of oils that it comes as a blend.
Okay.
So it's babasu, soybean, coconut. So that specific blend that I use works really well in combination with a natural derived copolymer. So in general, that's my go-to, but also depends on the brief. I may not be able to use that depending on what my client wants. And there are other alternatives too. I'm just saying that, if I have to start, I'll go with those two.
Yeah. Okay. That definitely makes sense. Like, there's always something that's best to start with, and then sort of modify as needed from there. That makes good sense. Allison, I'd like to move over to you now. In your talk, you spoke a little bit about the primary packaging that you're using at Biofile Skincare. I'm wondering a couple things there about packaging. I'd love to hear a little bit more from you about the importance of tamper-proof packaging. We think a lot about formulas requiring airless packaging, for instance, sort of to help with the preservation of a formula. And I'm guessing you're looking at something along those lines. But my second question about packaging for you has to do with sort of the consumer response, because so many customers right now are looking for something that's recyclable, maybe something that's refillable. And based on what you've described, I'm assuming that your packaging can't be taken apart. So you're, leading edge innovation in terms of formulation, but if I may, it feels like you're lagging a bit in terms of what does clean beauty packaging look like today. And so I'm curious there, particularly about your customers' response, but then also, again, about the functioning of this style of packaging and why it's necessary for your formulas.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm glad you asked it. So in terms of the importance of tamper-proof packaging, I mean, it's incredibly important. And it's kind of this dichotomy of when you switch towards more natural formulations and a reduction in the preservative systems, you have to figure out a way to protect that formula so that it doesn't get contaminated. And often, that's a very good solution is by using packaging that is tamper-proof, is airless, things like that. So, we thought long and hard about our packaging, and ours uses a pharmaceutical glass with a crimp top and a pump. What we wanted there is no perfect solution, we'll put it that way, and packaging needs. There needs to be a lot of development in packaging. But we started with this. It is true, it's harder to recycle. You can cut it off, which I do to all of mine. And there is a very easy way to do it, to separate those two. But it is not a perfect solution. We picked the pharmaceutical glass because it actually is quite lightweight. I think sometimes people forget about, in luxury products, they choose really heavy glass with heavy bottoms. And, thinking about sustainability all along the path. So that's also, the weight in terms of shipping and all of this. I think we need to change our thinking about what quality is. So our glass is pharmaceutical glass. It's very lightweight. It's user friendly. It's produced with borosilicate glass. So it was very intentional to use that. The pump was the hard part. And we are currently working to source a pump that can be removed by flipping it off instead of cutting it off. So, so far we haven't heard anything from our customers in terms of that. But I'm so happy to talk about it because it quite honestly is a struggle to tick every single box. And we had to choose between, that tamper-proof or, a packaging that was open.
Yeah.
But we're working on it. We're working on it.
Excellent. No, and I really appreciate your taking time to explain that so carefully, because I think the sustainable packaging piece of beauty brands today, especially trying to fit into this clean and ethical space, is is the biggest challenge or the biggest question mark that so many brands face. So very interesting to hear how you're making choices, both based on the ethos of your brand, but then also looking at the realities of what's available in the supply chain there. The next question I have is actually for both of you. You both really focused in your talks on skincare. Obviously, Allison, your brand is a skincare brand. Luciana, you chose to look at skincare formulations in your examples. But I'm hoping you can both speak now a little bit about the nuances of clean and ethical formulations for some other categories. So, Luciana, I'll ask you first, maybe a little bit how formulating clean skincare, for instance, differs from formulating maybe clean color cosmetics or a clean sun care product or even a clean nail product. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I can. I think that the toolkit for a color cosmetic scientist is still a bit tiny. I think I see that it's still a bit of a struggle, especially the colorants, to make sure that we have something that can be clean, ethical, sustainable. Just talking to my counterparts who developed this type of formulation, I could feel that they still struggle a bit with that. Sun care here at Lulubo, we do use mineral sunscreens. So we're talking about zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. Again, we do have to go through the same questionnaire that I just showed everybody. Make sure that you don't have impurities, what type of impurities you have, what is the process, what are the certifications, all that. So we do have to vet all that. So that's pretty much how we handle the sun care developments. And nail is really tough. I would say that nowadays, to find everything, the solvents, the polymers and everything, it's still a much more a struggle compared to everything else.
Very good. Thank you for that. A similar question then for you, Allison. I'm wondering about the Biophile skincare formulation, the technology itself really that you're using. It almost feels like there's potential for other categories. Can you talk about how this might apply to hair care, maybe scalp care or body care?
Absolutely. Since we are, considering the microbiome and our products are nourishing for that, certainly areas where the microbiome imbalances that create problems for people are huge opportunities for us. So definitely scalp care. This is dandruff and irritations on the scalp are often caused by product use actually, and by barrier breaches and we need to be using kinder products and products that really nourish the microbiome, and that means scalp, that means underarm, which has a origin in terms of odor and all of the biology within there. It's fascinating. Feminine care, and also just body care. I mean, I honestly I have very sensitive skin. I don't have a favorite body wash that I can use, and so that has been a passion of mine to develop a really a bio-made bar of soap that really is different than anything on the market. So they're all fun things to do. And in terms of color, it's fascinating. I mean, it's a new opportunity. Some of the bio-made ingredients are starting to be developed with color, but that's really down the road.
Yeah,
it's a tough one.
Yeah. No, I think what you're describing makes good sense. There are so many exciting possibilities and eventualities in this space, but it is still very early days for the technology to get to market. So
oral care as well. Forgot that.
Right. Yeah, a very big one when we think about the microbiome. Excellent. So I think we'll jump ahead and wrap things up with a final question for each of you. And if you don't mind, I will let those questions come from your peer. So I will let you ask, Allison, do you have any questions that might be interesting to hear Luciana answer?
Yes, sorry. Absolutely. Luciana, I loved that you took us through that formula. And there's two formulas that look exactly the same, but really one is sustainable and one isn't. And I thought it was really profound to see that. And I'm just wondering, from being in the lab and that, how much work you go through to make sure that all of those ingredients are sustainable. And you now have relationships with those suppliers, which is great. I'm wondering if there needs to be some sort of system where there's a seal or what do you wish could be there that can help communicate the true sustainability of a product versus one that is just, not. Do you wish that there was something?
That's a great question, Allison. Yes, we here at Lulubo, we go through a lot of, I would say details and making sure that everything really crossing all the T's to make sure that the formulations fit the sustainability profile that my client is giving to me. We would have to really talk, I think, broadly with the raw material suppliers, just to understand even, if they could have like a coalition somehow where they would share some type of information to be able to get that seal, so it's a little bit easier for the product development side to say, hey, I see this supplier, they already have this seal, so what type of board that we would have to create to even be able to vet that? I don't know, but it's a very interesting question, and I don't think that we are ready yet, but it's something that we can definitely talk about. I'm a member of the Society of Cosmetic Chemists here in New York, so we always try to find better ways. So perhaps, we could, brainstorm that a bit more.
Yeah, excellent. I like that answer. Yeah, I particularly like the idea that fits with your question that you asked, Allison, is that, I mean, in a way, there already is this ready-made checklist, right, that Luciana is going through. And I think that's the groundwork for the sort of, whether it's a certification or just the sort of transparency that a lot of brands and cosmetic chemists working with emerging brands are looking for. So that's, it's nice to start thinking in that direction. So then, Luciana, do you have a question that would be good for Allison to answer?
Yes, I thought that it's so exciting to see what you do, because I work on downstream and you work on upstream. So for me, I get a client, and as soon as I sign the contract, it's like, okay, can we launch in 3 months? Can we launch in 6 months? That's what I hear, right? So, and you work on upstream when there's just a bit more room for error, a bit more room to really do research. How you decided to go that path?
My career has been in innovation, and so a lot of the times I'm not in the lab. I'm the one dreaming up the new things, and so I just follow along that line, and I use sort of my knowledge of the chemistry and I've worked in natural product development for many years, but really on the innovation side. So staying true to that, I created Biofile when I really, started reading more about the microbiome 10 years ago, and really thought there needed to be a paradigm shift, and just kind of took it on as a creative and a passion project while I did other things, and then finally was able to launch Biofile. But I hear you, so I was in my little bubble and was able to create it, and now it's in the world. But I think that it is a challenge, and I see the challenges coming up in terms of the product pipeline and how's that going to look, and so hopefully what we'll do is just leverage the technology we have and then start building on it, and also collaborate. So there are other communities, bio communities, people within the bio community that are creating really amazing things that we can collaborate on things, and so I'm looking forward to doing more of that too. And one of them is actually, once we can get the bioplastics more developed, I think this will really help our industry a lot, because that needs to be, biology is where chemistry was 50 years ago. So it's a huge opportunity, but it's still very young.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I know there are so many companies at work on bioplastics and putting money sort of behind that research, but it still feels like it's a long time coming, to be sure. I just want to take a quick moment to thank you both, Luciana Coutinho of Lulubo and Allison Cutlen of Biofile Skincare. I'll go ahead and tell everyone watching that the next episode of the CosmeticsDesign Clean and Ethical video series will be all about getting the messaging right for clean beauty. And this upcoming episode will feature Eleni McKerney of the creative agency Base Beauty and Dr. Modresi of the UK-based Personal Care Regulatory.
you.